as it was said here in the intro, the shir is, I understand, the shir is Leilu Nishmat, Feigi's mother. And it's so appropriate so that the shir today is about Kibud Av Vaem. That's the topic of the shir. It's about Kibud Av Vaem as we're going to read it. It's the fifth commandment. We're going to read it in 2 days from now, the fifth commandment. And of course, I'm starting with a classic question that is always refreshing to return to. Kibud Av Vaem, how do you see the essence of this mitzvah? What is the reason? Tamei mitzvot, I'll even ask. What's the reason for the mitzvah? What's the logic behind this mitzvah of Kibud Av Vaem? Yeah. And interrelated to that, I'll ask a second question that is in close relationship with the first one. I ask, what is the reason for the commandment? And what's the logic behind it? What's the rationale? And a closely related question, do you categorize Kibud Av Vaem as Bein Adam Lechavero or Bein Adam Lamakom? How do you see it? Okay. Vakasha. I'm open for your answers.
I always think of the Perush of Shimshon Raphael Hirsch on the parasha, who's quite clear. It's both Ben Adam it's in both categories, but the main thing is the Mesorah. It's not enough just to say Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Meretz Mitzrayim. You also have to have the Mesorah, which takes that Chavaya throughout the generations. So that's the important.
So look, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I have here the Hirsch in English available. I'll share it with the people. However, I must ask you honestly. I mean, you are Paul. You are a Talmud Chacham. You know the Rashar Hirsch, whatever. What's the intuitive answer? Is Rabbi Hirsch's answer? If I pick a random person in the street and ask him, look, there is a commandment to respect and honor and have off from your parents. I have to tell you honestly, he won't answer Rabbi Hirsch's answer. I promise. I guarantee you that's not the most intuitive, straightforward answer for what's the reason behind Kibud Av Vaem. Doesn't say that it's not true, but there is a much more simple one, the most intuitive one. Yes, Phil, but unmute yourself. Phil, unmute yourself.
Sure. Family solidarity. And not all cultures have the same reaction.
Okay, so we heard here two things. I'm now two reasons. One was that it's very important in order to maintain and enhance the Mesorah. Okay, that's the Hirsch. By the way, not only Hirsch, the Meshech Chochmah says exactly the same thing. Meshech Chochmah and Vayikra. And the Phil said that it's establishing and maintaining and enhancing family solidarity. Okay, but again, to achieve family solidarity, it's also respecting siblings. I'm not saying that it's the same, but again, I'm looking for what's the most intuitive answer. You guys are too learned. Richard. Yeah. No, you muted yourself. No, Richard, you just muted yourself. You were unmuted and you muted yourself. Yes.
So parents bring us into this world. And so in a sense, they're partners with Hashem in creation. And so the commandment, by honoring our parents, we're honoring Hashem.
Okay. All right. First of all, definitely a very good reason that we'll see it on the sources. I'm a little stubborn, and all are correct, and all are brought by our rabbis, but maybe I'll sharpen my question. If I'll find a random atheist in the street, okay, a Western atheist in the streets of America or Israel, Great Britain or whatever. And I'll ask this guy, look, there is a point in honoring and having respect to your parents. Could you see and honoring them and taking care of them when they need that you'll take care of them? Can you give me the reason, the justification, the moral reason for that? He's an atheist. So I'll ask him, do you have a moral reason for that? Okay. And what will he answer me?
Because when he's a parent, he wants that from his children. So it makes sense that he would do it for his parents.
Interesting. Okay, any other ideas? What will be the moral justification for a commandment to take care of your parents when they're getting older and they need your taking care? Here, I'm a moral atheist, a Western atheist. Really, there is no reason that we can think about?
They took care of me, so I should take care of them.
Right. We call it simply Hakara Satov. Have you heard of that concept, Hakara Satov? Now, Hakara Satov is not I think that moral people acknowledge the concept of Hakara Satov, even if they're not from, believe it or not. They're the people who are mensch, are aware of the concept of Hakara Satov. Now, that's the most. Now, if I stay with this very this layer, this very fundamental, basic layer of Hakara Satov, and that's before going to Hirsch about maintaining the Masorah, to Phil speaking about the value of family as such, to Harold, who's speaking of something a little selfish. I want that people will take care of me, so I'm now such a system, or as Richard said, that by respecting the two people that created you, you will come from that to respect the Creator. Okay, l'chora, a very, as I said, a very straightforward, basic layer of this mitzvah is Hakara Satov. Now, if I would stay here as a moral obligation of Hakara Satov, is it, and I'm only saying this narrow explanation, is this Ben Adam L'Chavero or Ben Adam L'Makom? Hakara Satov. Hakara Satov, to someone did me a favor and I'm returning him. I'm now owing him that. I need to, yeah.
Gam v'gam.
Why is it gam v'gam? Why? Again, does an atheist acknowledge the moral concept of Hakara Satov? If I'm correct that the answer is yes, then it's Ben Adam L'Chavero, period. Okay.
All right. If you're an atheist, it's just gum.
Okay, no, look, I'll explain you, because every commandment that is Ben Adam L'Chavero is, if I'm a religious person, I would say, yeah, also God commanded me to be a good guy. But that doesn't help me, okay? The minute I make the categorization and the distinction between Ben Adam L'Chavero and Ben Adam L'Makom, then this is the question, whether, aside from the fact that Hashem is interested in us being good people, whether aside from that it's Ben Adam L'Makom. And if the answer is no, then the answer is no. Meaning Hakara Satov per se between people, Hakara Satov per se between people is Ben Adam L'Chavero. However, I think here you could say, so if I'm saying this, it's Ben Adam L'Chavero. Now we all know that this picture of the 10 commandments and 5 tablets on the right side, not tablets, excuse me, 5 commandments on the right-hand tablet and 5 commandments on the left-hand tablet, and the 5 commandments, the last 5 commandments, the ones that are in the left-hand tablets, these last 5 commandments, they are these last 5 commandments, they are Ben Adam L'Chavero, Lo tirtzach, lo tignov, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal. All of these are Ben Adam L'Chavero. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that the first ones, I am Hashem your God who took you out of Egypt. You should not worship idols. You should not use my name in vain. Keep Shabbos. All of these are Bein Adam LaMakom, and Kibud Av Vaem apparently is categorized as Bein Adam LaMakom, according to this cheshbon, right? However, it is a transitional commandment because it's the last one in Bein Adam LaMakom, and like introductory to Bein Adam LaChaver, which could serve as a bridge between the two. That's why it's so significant philosophically. So if I start with a very basic layer, it seems a straightforward Bein Adam LaChavero, Hakaras Hatov, a straightforward Bein Adam LaChavero. However, how can I turn it to Bein Adam LaMakom? First of all, according to Paul's explanation, it's very Bein Adam LaMakom, very Bein Adam LaMakom. Masora, it's a fundamental keeping tradition, enhances it. It's very Bein Adam LaMakom. Family value, as Phil said, okay, it's a value. If it's a universal value, it's Bein Adam L'Chaver. But if I see it as something different, traditional, whatever, it might be Bein Adam L'Makom. What Richard said about respecting the people that created you, and by that creating, respecting Hashem, the Creator. Here, this is what L'Chora Bein Adam L'Makom. However, look at that. I'll add now the atheist explanation with Richard's explanation because it's a continuum. That's the beauty here. You have a basic moral obligation of Hakaras Hatov. However, it's Hakaras Hatov for what? For the fact that these two people created you. Hakaras Hatov to someone that created me. That elevates me to Hakaras Hatov to whom? To the creator of them, the creator of everything. So that's the bridge. Via Hakaras Hatov to the creators, a simple human thing. I reach Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So it's a bridge between Bein Adam L'Chaveru and Bein Adam L'Makom. And actually the last commandment in the Bein Adam L'Makom really serves as a basis to the entire 10 Commandments, because it goes back to the Anochi. Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzaticha me'eretz Mitzrayim, therefore you have Hakaras Hatov. Here, Kibud Av Vaem Hakaras Hatov, because he's your creator. Okay, now all of the things that we said here, now I'll show you it in the source sheet, but first I'll use here something as a lakmus paper. I just gave a series of shiurim in my community in remote about adoption. Okay, now I'm asking a question. An adopted kid, is he obligated in Kibud Av Vaem to, is he formally commanded to do kibud to his adopting parents? Now it could be adopting parents that grew him up from day one. Is he obligated in the formal commandment of Kibud Av Vaem, the adopted child, towards his adopting parents? What do y'all say? I don't hear you.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Yes, for the same reason. He has to give.
Yes, I say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll trigger you. According to Richard's explanation, is the answer yes or no?
Yes.
Richard, say it out loud. I read your lips.
No, according to, there hasn't been creation,
Right.
So it would be no. However, I agree that that upbringing is equally as important, and it should be a yes.
Very good. Let me just explain here. Okay. If I'll get to that. Now, I wanna explain here. There is no argument between the poskim that, practically speaking, an adopted child must respect and honor his adopting parents. That's the bottom line in terms of practical, because he has a moral halachic obligation of Hakara Satov for their upbringing. Still, and listen to that carefully, the Gemara in Sota, it's clear from the Gemara in Sota that he is not obligated in the formal obligation of Kibud Av Vaem. It's a chiyuv of Hakara Satov, big time Hakara Satov. Okay? But it's not Kibud Av Vaem. The formal, he's not. And why? Exactly because of Richard's explanation. Because this is a very special, specific Hakara Satov. It's Hakara Satov for the people that created you, and via that, you reach the Hakara Satov, an obligation towards the Creator. This is not applicable to adopting parents. Their adopted child must respect them and honor them out of Hakara Satov, big time Hakara Satov, but not Kibud Av Vaem. Kibud Av Vaem is towards the creators, okay? Hakara Satov towards the Creator, a feeling of respect and awe towards the one that created you, and via that you reach the Hakara Satov and awe from the Creator. Let's see now all of these things inside. It's about time. And I'm telling you again, we saw the essence of the mitzvah now, and some ramifications of it. The next step of the shir is addressing the boundaries, the extent of this commandment. Okay, so now here we'll go for. I'll share with you the screen. Here, look at that. Let's start with Sefer HaChinuch about the mitzvah. As you know, Sefer HaChinuch, a medieval rabbi, Sefer HaChinuch, yeah, Sefer HaChinuch here. 1 second, yeah. Oh, wait a minute, I'll change it again. Good. Sefer HaChinuch, it says the following: Mishorshe mitzvah zo, the roots of this mitzvah. Sharaui lola adam. It is appropriate, or it's obligated on this on a person. Sheyakir ve'igmol chesed lemisha asayim tova. Hakara Satov is a fundamental thing. You should not be not grateful, because this is a bad midah, and that he will put to his heart. And now look at the big sentence. That's a very critical sentence here. You should acknowledge that the father and the mother are the causes. They're the one that caused. And therefore, really, he should honor them and benefit them as much as he can, because they brought him to the world. Again, you see the emphasis on creating. And now he adds an additional point. He also put some effort when he was little. You know, they changed his diapers. But you see, that's a gam. He adds it. The main thing is that they are the ones, they are the reason, the cause for him in the world. That's the main reason for the Hakara Satov. He says it clearly. They brought him to this world. Also, they put effort on him when he was little. And look, how is it clear that indeed, as he said in the Hebrew grammar, that's the main reason. And efforts they did in changing his diapers is only a secondary thing. You see from the next sentence. And when this midah will be established in his nefesh, he will be elevated from it to be makir tova to God. That he is the reason and the cause for him and for all his fathers till Adam, Arishon, and that he brought him to this world, caused the birth, brought him, supplied his needs all his days, all his life, caused that he will be healthy and that he'll have a brain and a mind, because without the nefesh that Hashem gave to us, I would have been like a horse or an animal, and therefore he should understand how much he should be careful in Avodas Hashem. You see clearly that Sefer HaChinuch starts with the simple concept of Hakaras HaTov, what I call the atheist concept, but crystallizes it that it's Hakaras HaTov towards the one that created you. That's the main thing. And therefore, via that, you respect the creator and understand that you should be very, very careful in his worship. Let's continue. Let's go back to the fundamental sources and see this comparison and this bridge between honoring your parents and honoring Hashem. Okay, the Beit and Masechet Kiddushin says the following: Tanu Rabbana, Ne'emar kabedet avicha ve'imecha, ve'ne'emar kabedet Hashem onecha. It says respect your father and mother, and it says respect Hashem from your money, meaning, and then it says Kishva Katuv. There is a comparison in the psukim between honoring your parents and honoring Hashem. Also, it says you should have awe. Ishimo v'aviv tirau in Parshat Kedoshim and Vayikra. You should have awe from your parents, and also it says et Hashem Elokecha tira. You should have awe from Hashem. There is a comparison, says the Baraita, between awe of parents and awe of Hashem, meaning it's not just the simple Bein Adam Lechaveiro, it's also respecting an authority, the concept of authority. It's not equal. It's not a friend that did me a favor and I have Hakaras HaTov. The parents, they created me. It's also a family hierarchy. It just as Hashem, just as they are figures of authority, Hashem is a figure of authority. It's instilling, and here we're getting already close to Paul's explanation, Hirsch's explanation, establishment of authority, because that is a precondition for an efficient Masorah, okay? So there is a comparison between having awe from Hashem and having awe from the parents, and respecting Hashem and respecting the parents. Now, and as an addition to that, an enhancement of that, the next Baraita in this source, the famous one that Richard mentioned, Tanu Rabbanan, there is a Baraita. There are three partners in creating a man: God, his father, and his mother. There are three creators. My father once said, the parents put the hardware and Hashem the software. Bizman she'adam mechabed et aviv ve'et imo, amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, once at the time that when a person respects his parents, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it is as if I was in between them and I was living there between them, and they respected me. When you honor your parents, you honor Hashem. Okay, because there are three partners. All right, now let's see the severity, the stringency of this mitzvah. First, we'll see how much this mitzvah is very, very strict. So there is a story in the Gemara in Kiddushin. Rabbi Tarfon had a mom that I remember that I read it in a kid's book, Koasu Chachamenu, as a little kid. Rabbi Tarfon had a mom. Anytime she wanted, anytime she wanted to go over her bed, to climb to her bed, he would bow down and he will be her ladder. And every time she wanted to get off her bed, which was tall apparently, then again, he crawled down and he was her step, he was her ladder. He came and praised himself. He felt good about what he did. So he praised himself in the Beit Midrash. Look, you know how much I honor and respect and take care of my mom. I'm bowing down. I'm the big rabbi, Rabbi Tarfon, and she's using me as a step. He told him in the Beit Midrash, you didn't even reach half of the degree of what's required to honor your parents. Did you ever encounter that she threw a wallet to the ocean, to the sea, in front of your eyes, took a wallet, threw it in front of your eyes, and you still controlled yourself and you didn't embarrass her, this is the extent that you're required in Kibud Av Vaem. Rav Yosef, when he was hearing the steps of his mom, then he would stand up immediately and say, it's as if I'm standing up before the Shechina. Rabbi Yochanan says, and this is a very, very troubling statement, but the Gemara clarifies it. Rabbi Yochanan says, it is good for the one, Ashrei mi shelo chaman, it's good for the one who never saw his parents. It's so hard to meet the requirement of, to be yotze, the obligation. It is so hard to be fully yotze, the obligation of Kibud Av Vaem, because the requirements are so far, how much you should be careful and respect your parents. So better one who, became an orphan from day one. Now, of course, that is absurd to say such a thing. It's a challenge to respect your parents and have offered them. It's a challenge, but we want life. We want healthy life. We want living parents. So Rabbi Yochanan said, it is so, Rabbi Yochanan it's an expression of extremity. He said, it is so hard to meet the criteria, so hard to be yotze this mitzvah. It's better for a person, instead of being nichshal from it, it's better that he never saw them. But look at what the Gemara comments wisely here. Rabbi Yochanan, when his mother was pregnant, his father passed away. And when she gave birth to him, tragically, she died. And the same thing about Abaye, meaning the Gemara, here the Gemara is psychological. Clearly, that's the pshat of the Gemara says, look, it's a very extreme statement. Rabbi Yochanan says, it's good for someone who never saw his parents, but you need to understand that that's the way he's comforting himself. He tragically never had parents. He tragically never had living parents. So the way he's comforting his consolation is to say, at least I never violated Kibud Av Vaem. And that's how the Gemara explains that statement. But I'm just showing you all these sources to illustrate to you how much this commandment is requiring. However, the commandment has also limitations. Okay? And here are the limitations. But first, before the limitations, let's define the commandment. The definition appears in the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan, Ezehu Mora ve'ezehu Kibud. What is Mora and what is Kibud? What's the difference between the commandment to have awe from parents and to respect the parents, Kibud? Mora doesn't stand in his place, doesn't sit in his place, is not contradicting his words. Let's say there is a discussion. The father says a svara or something, so you never say you're wrong. Lo soter et varav. The Gemara, by the way, and I omitted that Gemara because of lack of space, the Gemara gives a story of how one should correct his parent when, let's say, they're learning Torah and the father says a wrong thing. You can't say you're mistaken. He needs to say it in a very gentle way. Lo machri'o, doesn't proven, that's mora. So mora are issues of awe, standing of his place, engaging in a discussion with him in a respectful way, etc. Now you have kibud. What is kibud? Kibud is just taking care. You feed him and drink him, the parent. You are dressing him up, you're covering him, you're taking him out to places, you're bringing him in places. That is really taking care of, okay? So the difference is that Mora is awe and Kibud is taking care of, okay? This is the definition the Braita gives. Now, let's go to the limitations of the mitzvah, the boundaries. Because we started with how much the Moraim explain how strict it is, how much you should be careful, not even to contradict him, and When Rabbi Tarfon served as a step to his mom, they told him that's only halfway. There's much more that you're obligated. And that even if they challenge you, the parents, by an annoying behavior, like throwing the wallet to the sea, you should control yourself and not embarrass them. So it seems a very, very strict commandment. So let's see the first limitation of the mitzvah. There is a Gemara in Bava Metzia saying about Hashavas Aveda. And let's say a Kohen, we're talking about a Kohen. A Kohen walks on the street and sees an Aveda, sees a lost object. So, a Kohen is a Jew. He's obligated to return the lost object. However, what happens if the lost object is in the cemetery? The Kohen is walking right next to the cemetery and he sees a wallet in the cemetery. So what is the ruling? He's not allowed to do the Hashavas Aveda. He's a Kohen. He can't contaminate. He cannot go into the cemetery. So the Mishnah says it. If the Aveda was in Beit HaKvaros, in the cemetery, lo hitam ala, the Kohen should not approach it. If his father told him, go and take this lost object and impure yourself, or let's say they walked on the street when there was no cemetery and he's obligated to return the lost object, and his father told him, no, ignore this lost object, lo yishmalo, he should not follow what his father said. Meaning, when the father told his son, hey, turn on it's Shabbos now, and the father told the son, turn on the light. Turn on the light. So what is the ruling? Yeah, let's say the father is telling his son, turn on the light, and it's Shabbos, and it's for no purpose, just because, he wants to read a book. He's healthy, it's all good. What is the ruling? Should the son respect his parent, or have off from his parent and follow his commandment, the commandment of the father? What's the answer? Y'all say no. Now give me the reason. Why not? Kibud Av Vaem. Why not? When the father, Bekitzer, when a father is telling his son, or a mother is telling her son to violate the Torah, okay, to transgress, to make a transgression. So what's the law and why?
It's going back to the Masorah. The father's not respecting the mitzvot, so he's not fulfilling his obligations.
What?
So the father's not fulfilling his obligation as a parent, as a teacher, as a transfer of the Masorah, and therefore you say, I'm sorry, this is not the way you should have been. You have to be very careful how you word it. But basically, you have to say, no.
If we're following the explanation of the Sefer HaChinuch and not of that of Hirsch, because Hirsch, with all the respect, is not the pshat. So what will we say?
The kibud of your parents is not superseding the kibud of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So you cannot violate. You cannot, as you said, when he's telling you to violate halakha, that is something that you are.
Harold, it was very hard for me to understand any word of what you said because of a poor connection. So either write it or improve the connection. Again, why? The ruling, you're right. The bottom line, that's the Gemara we just learned, the Mishnah, that when a parent is telling his son to violate commandments of the Torah, the son should not follow the commandments of the father, of the parent, when it's in contradiction, in conflict with Hashem's obligation. But I asked why. So Paul said because it's against Masorah, and since the whole purpose of Kibud Av Vaem is enhancing the Masorah, so it doesn't make sense, right? But if I'm going in the direction of respecting the Creator, respecting them because they created you out of Hakaras Hatov, and by that respecting the Creator. So what will you say according to this logic? Harold, do you want to try again?
I'll try again. Can you hear me better?
Now I hear you great. Yeah, say it again.
As I said, well, according to these sources, the kibud of your parents does not supersede the kibud of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So if they contradict each other, then kibud of God would take preference.
Right, and I'll sharpen the point. If indeed kibud is not just a simple akaras hatov, okay? But as we said, it is akaras hatov that is geared towards elevating you to have akaras hatov to the Creator, okay? So obviously, when you are following your parents' order and not Hashem's order, then it doesn't serve its purpose. Let's see how the Gemara phrases it in a pretty similar way. Let's see how the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan. From where do we know that if the father told him, get him pure, you're a Kohen, but get him pure and take this object. Or he told him, don't return the lost object. How do we know that one should not hear him? Sheneemar ishimo v'aviv tirau ve'et shabtotai tishmoru ani Hashem. Kulchem chayavim bekvudi. Meaning at the end of the day, your father is also obligated to respect Hashem. Both of you guys are included in the commandment, both you and your parents are included in the commandment to respect Hashem. So at the end of the day, you won't follow your parent. Now the Gemara questions. It's only because it's written, Ishimo ve'aviv tirau, one should have awe from his parents, but you should keep Shabbos. That was the drasha. You should have awe. However, all of you are obligated to keep the Ben Adam Lamo. It implies that without that addition in the pasuk, then one should have followed him. But how come one should have followed? It doesn't make sense that you should follow your parent against Hashem. So the Gemara says, no, there is a Hava Amina. Look at that. Since there is a comparison between respecting parents and respecting Hashem, as we've seen, the Psukim compare the two, respecting parents and respecting Hashem. So I would have added Hava Amina, that I follow the parents' order even when they contradict the commandment of Hashem. So I need a special pasuk to know not so. So look at that. This is a fascinating Gemara. The Gemara is saying that I need a special pasuk to teach me what seems to be a very trivial thing, as you all said. It seems to be straightforward that if a parent tells you to violate Hashem's commandments, you should follow Hashem and not your parent. That seems to be intuitive. Why do I need a special pasuk to teach me that? The Gemara says, you know what? It's not that intuitive. Since there is a comparison between honoring Hashem and honoring your parents, then there was a thought, an initial thought that the pasuk needed to exclude, that you actually follow your parents even against Hashem. That was the initial thought. And then the pasuk teaches me, no, there is a boundary to that. Look at that. Now, how do I explain it? This Hava Amina. That's exactly what the Meshech Chochma asks. And the Meshech Chochma says the following. You know what he uses Hirsch's explanation, but in the Hava Amina Dafka to the opposite thing. Meaning he says, the whole foundation of Masorah is authority and respecting your parents. They're the transmitters of the Masorah. Since they're the transmitters of the Masorah, it's very important to keep their authority. So I would treat a one-time event that a parent tells me to violate Divrei Torah as a local problem, and I'm willing to sacrifice this Avera. That was the Hava Amina, the initial thought. I'm willing to sacrifice one-time violation of a commandment of Hashem and following the authority in order to maintain general authority of the parent, because regularly that parent teaches me Torah. Regularly that parent is transmitting the authority. And I want to maintain that. And therefore, says the Meshech Chochmah, I would have thought that I'll sacrifice a one time. Yeah, it's like in chess. You are sacrificing one tzariach, I don't know how you say it, in order to earn a queen. So that was the initial thought. So what is the conclusion? At the end of the day, we say, no way. You never listen to your parent when he contradicts a commandment. I would say, because at the end of the day, it's a counterproductive. I mean, if the whole purpose is keeping the Masorah, well, here in that action, you will do against the Masorah. Here, the parent is acting not as a transmitter of the Masorah, but as a violator of Masorah. So it doesn't make sense to listen to him. Okay, so now I won't read you the Meshech Chochmah inside for time concerns, okay? But maybe we will share the Hirsch. I'll share the Hirsch. So wait a minute, I'll stop sharing and I'll share the Hirsch in English. Here, there we go. Let's read it quickly. Yetziat Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. These two basic facts in the history of Jewish people, which constitute the basis for our submission to God as the guide and director of our history and our lives, these facts are actual historical truths. But the knowledge and acknowledgement of historical facts depends solely on tradition. And tradition depends solely on the faithful transmission by parents to children and on the willing acceptance by children from the hands of their parents. So that the continuance of God's whole great institution of Judaism rests entirely on the theoretical and practical obedience of children to parents. And Kibud Av Vaem is the basic condition for the eternal existence of the Jewish nation. Through father and mother, God gives the child not only physical existence, they are the actual bond that joins the child to the Jewish past that allowed it to be a Jew or a Jewess. And they are those who are to hand over to them the Jewish mission in knowledge, morals, and education. The child is to receive history and the law, okay, etc. I'll stop here. I think the message is clear. Now let me ask you, according to this approach of the Meshech Chochmah, the Rashar Hirsch, and Paul, that the purpose of Kibud Av Vaem is to enhance the Masorah. Let me ask you, a Gentile, is he obligated in Kibud Av Vaem to his parent? I'll ask you a simple question. A Gentiles, do they have the commandment of Kibud Av Vaem?
No.
Okay, it's not one of the 7 Noahide commandments.
No.
However, are Gentiles included in the obligation of Hakaras Hatov?
It should be.
It's interesting. It's not one of the 7.
No, I think it was.
It's a universal concept, Hakaras Hatov.
But it's not an obligation.
Oh, it is, and actually, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein proves it. Okay, but good. L'chora, my question about the atheist is the same thing. Y'all agreed with that there is a simple moral obligation of Hakaras Hatov, okay, a human one. So from that perspective, I'll say that a goy should respect his parents. Now I'll go with you further. A convert, halachically, his biological parents are not his parents, right? For many aspects, a convert. We say, ger shenit gayer, pekatan shenola dami. Yeah, a convert that converted is considered halachically like a child who was born. So I'm asking you, does a convert have an obligation to respect his biological parents?
It's a tough one.
I'm asking, does a convert have an obligation to respect his biological parents?
And from the point of view of Hakaras Hatov, yes.
Right. From the point of view of Hakaras Hatov, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Hakaras Hatov of the Ben Adam Lamakom, that by respecting your creators, you respect the creator. Even from that aspect, yes, because physically they created him. No one argues with that. However, if I take the Rashar Hirsch explanations and Meshech Chochmah, that the essence of Kibud Av Vaem is enhancing and maintaining the Masorah and the transmission of the Jewish values and tradition. Does that aspect apply to Gentiles and converts regarding their biological parents?
I don't know, my feeling is that Hirsch was writing this because of the extent of the reform in the 19th century. And therefore, his focus was not necessarily on Hakarat HaTov. His focus was on trying to get, that's my take on it.
Oh, that's a good theory. And I just add, I'll just say that the Meshech Chochmah said the same thing in a different environment. And he said it in order to solve the problem of the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Why did the Gemara in Bava Metzia had a Hava Amina that I'll violate Hashem's commandment and listen to the parents? He said it's in order to maintain authority that is so needed for transmission, proper transmission of Mitzorah. Okay, I'm asking if the purpose of Kibud Av Vaem. Now I'm asking analytically, not historically, why Hirsch said that or that. I'm taking the reason as is. I'm asking, according to that logic, the establishment of authority in Masorah, of authority in order to transmit Masorah. I'm asking, does the Goy have an obligation according to that to respect his parents, or does a convert has an obligation to respect his biological Goyish parents? What will be the answer? Yes, Phil.
And what about the flip side, which will illustrate the problem? Suppose the parents are not nice people.
I know, I was asked that in the chat, and I'll get to that, Bezrat Hashem, okay? But even, first of all, but you know what, just in case I won't get to that, to say it very, very briefly, and again, I hope we'll get to that. If the parents are not nice people, you know, not nice people is a very broad thing. Generally speaking, as we've seen, what?
I meant stinkers, but I wanted to be polite. The father could be a ganef. He could
Phil,
be
I understand. That's a good question. But first of all, generally speaking, we need to respect our parents, even if they're not nice people. Okay, that's generally.
Yeah.
However, of course, if they harm us, okay, one has the right and obligation to protect himself. And therefore, there are situations, abuse and other things, that of course, a responsible rabbi, and it ruins the life of the kid to be in contact with his parents, et cetera, then of course he'll have a heter, definitely a heter, to protect himself. These are clear boundaries of it. Chevre, please, I want to get back to track, and I want to say the simple things. If the essence, the answer, Larry, the answer is yes. He has an obligation towards his biological parents. I'm saying it simplistically because they're his creators. That's the essence of this mitzvah. But let's go back. And please, I want to go on with the track here. A goy, l'chora, if I focus on the reason of maintaining the tradition, the Torah Shebaal Peh, of course that's not relevant to a goy, okay? And convert towards his goyish parents, again, there's no transmission of Masorah, okay? The only thing you could say, by respecting his creators, he will reach a respect to authority, and that will help him in Torah. Okay. Now, Reb Moshe was asked the following shaila in 1962. In 1962, and I'm saying the year b'chavana because today I assume not such a shaila wouldn't have been asked at all. Reb Moshe is asked the following shaila. Here's a lady in Syracuse. I mean, he received the letter from the rabbi of Syracuse. And the question is the following. She says, I converted years ago, and I don't have contact with my mom, even though she lives in the same city. And the reason why I don't have relationships with her is because I was concerned that my kids will be influenced by her. And therefore, I kept distant from her so that my kids will grow up from Jewish, etc. I got a message from her that she's about to die, and she has a strong desire before she dies to see her grandchildren. And I have a desire to fulfill that request. Am I allowed to do so? Okay. That's the question. I'm not changing. Taram, what do you guess? What was Reb Moshe's answer? We'll jump to the bottom line.
Yes, because it's being a mensch. It's being the right thing to do.
He told her, he told her, not only you're allowed, because her question was, am I allowed to fulfill my desire, even though I'm risking that she will influence my kids? So the answer of Reb Moshe is not only you're allowed to do it, you're obligated to do it. Halachically, you're not her daughter, as I said, halachically. Okay, so look at what Reb Moshe says. He's really walking in the steps of Sefer HaChinuch. Again, Paul, from the perspective of Hirsch, what is there here? No Masorah, no nothing. The only name of the game is Akara Satov here. So let's see what Reb Moshe is saying. Shuti Moshe, here. Here, the convert that is frum, and she distanced herself from her Goyish parents already 20 years, even though they're in the same city. And now, okay, I explained you the question. And even though the convert knows that from the Torah's law, she has no yichus to her biological parents, but she asked whether she's allowed to go there because naturally she has love to her parents and wants to fulfill the request of her sick parents. Now, the rabbi told Reb Moshe all kinds of reasons to permit it. Maybe if I won't permit her, then she'll stop being frum and she'll return to be a goya. That's a consideration. Sometimes we say, shelo yasur l'sur. Or other reasons that Reb Moshe rejects. But then he says, however, we see in the Rambam in Ilchos Mamrim, and here Reb Moshe quotes a fantastic Rambam. The convert is not allowed to curse his Goyish parent, and he's not allowed to hit him, and he's not allowed to embarrass him, so that people won't say, by becoming a Jew, he only reduced his obligation. Because here, this guy is embarrassing his parent. Rather, he should act with them, look at the term, miktzat kibud. Noheg bo miktzat kibud. He is noheg with him a little of kibud. What is the Rambam here saying? The Rambam is saying a convert towards his biological parent, even though halachically he's not considered his son to many aspects, yet still, since as a Ben Noach, as a Gentile, he was not allowed to curse him and to embarrass him. And he also was obligated to have some kibud towards him. So you can't say that by becoming a Jew that reduces his obligation. Now Reb Moshe is asking, where does the Rambam take that a goy towards his parents is still obligated in miktzat kibud? We didn't see it in the 7 Noahide commandments that a Gentile is obligated towards his Gentile parent a little of a partial kibud. So he says, Lo rak muteret, ela mechuyevet lasot ratzon ima. First of all, we established that she's obligated to do what her mom asked. So he says, what is the source for the Rambam? And here we get to Reb Moshe proves that Hakaras Hatov is universal, even though it's not mentioned in the 7 Noahide commandment. ולכן הראה לנו דעתי דו מעניין איסור כפוי טובה, שמצינו בדברי אגדה, שהקפיד הקדוש ברוך הוא על אדם הראשון. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah calls Adam Arishon a kfui tova, criticizes Adam Arishon, before Judaism. The Gemara criticizes in the beginning of Masechet Avodah Zarah, Adam Arishon for being not grateful, ungrateful. Why? Because he was lonely and Hashem brought him his wife, and he told him, you brought me that wife, when he tried to justify himself for sinning in Chet Adam Arishon. And the Gemara criticizes and says, he's a kfui tova. So Reb Moshe says, you see that the obligation of Hakaras Hatov is universal. And therefore, now let's go back to the Rambam. Why does the Rambam says that a goy towards his parent is chayav miktzat kibud? Because he has the basic layer of Hakaras Hatov. And even the Hakaras Hatov of via respecting his biological parent, respecting the Creator. The Gentiles are also required to respect the Creator. Why is it says miktzat kibud? Because the aspect of Hirsch, I'm adding that, this is not included. So it's not the full kibud of what we have. Okay, it is the basic layer of Hakaras Hatov. Now, Chevra, I see we have only 15 minutes left. I must run, but this is such a fundamental Reb Moshe's answer. You see, Reb Moshe explains the moral obligation of Hakaras Hatov, how this is a thing that is, how we will say it, Kadma LaTorah. I want to now proceed in the boundaries of the commandment. Let's look at the Ramban, or no, but before let's start with some practical questions. Yes, we have 15 minutes, that's good. We'll have to run though. Let's say I'm a 25-year-old and I have a dream to learn to be an architect. I'm very talented in the area. That's my tendency. I'll be a happy person and a successful person probably if I'll be an architect. Now my parents come to me and says, forget it. Forget it. The father is a big lawyer. And he's saying, look, I put all my efforts in this office. And before your birth, when you were in the womb, the plan was that you'll take over the office. You're going to law school, my dear son. You're 25-year-old, but I'm telling you, forget about being an architect. Forget about it. You are learning, you're going to law school. But then the son says, look, I hate law. I'll suffer all my life. I'll suffer. And I know where are my talents. I have to learn to be an architect. The father says, forget it. Look, if you will go to be an architect and you won't go to law school, I don't know you. I have nothing to do with you. Does the son have an obligation to listen to his parent? Kibud Av Vaem. Furthermore, what was the definition of Mora? Lo yistoret varav. You remember? We learned that Mora was, don't contradict his words. Don't argue with him. So maybe he has an obligation to learn, to go to law school and be miserable all his life. Kibud Av Vaem. What do you say? Oh, what is silence?
No, he has no obligation.
Why? It's a Mora. The definition of Mora is lo yistoret varav. He should not contradict his words.
because there are limitations which you're going to explain through the Ramban.
Okay, so you already read the Ramban. Okay, but I'm saying logically, intuitively, what do you say?
If the father's still healthy, then there's no real reason for the logical reasons for the son to become a lawyer. Let his father continue. Why should he?
Okay, Paul. Let's say the son, the father is sick now. Okay.
Oh, then he should go. Then he should go in and close it. But when his father dies,
What?
If his father's sick, then he might as well join his father and close the law practice when his father passes on.
Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Let's say his father is very sick and he's saying, you must go here into the office and be a lawyer. But the son says, no, the son says, look, I hate law. I'll be miserable all my life. My talents are to be an architect, and I want to learn to be an architect. You say that the son is obligated to listen to the father and be miserable all his life?
No.
Because the office will be closed otherwise?
He's got no obligation. It's the father's source of livelihood. It's not his source of livelihood.
So, but again, all what Harold said and what you said, but we need a source for that, because I said Mora, the simple understanding of Mora is not to contradict the words of the father. Yeah, Phil, yes.
Isn't the father considered a Russia in that case?
Oh,
Because
very
he
nice.
is forcing his son to do something that he knows, the father knows, that the son is not suited for it, and he is suited for the other profession.
I'll tell you, Fagi, first of all, it's a very nice way, like as a postsec, to say, okay, let's put him in the category of Russia, and then maybe it's not applicable. I don't think it's so easy to define someone as a Russia. Okay, you need to meet some criteria for that. But I'll use your logic, and I thank you for that, because even as a psychologist, it gave me a different formulation. Let's not go that far and say he's a Russia, okay? But let's say the very definition of parenting is to put the needs of your kids before your needs.
Right.
Now here, what happens to the father is that he's focused, almost locked on his needs, and he's not attentive at all to his child's needs. So I can say, and that's very nice formulation, he's not acting here as a parent. This is not parenting. The commandment is to respect your parents. Here, he excluded himself, really, in a way, from a category of a parent. By the way, I didn't see that formulation in the postscript, just came to my mind. That could be a line of argument. But let's see what the Ramban and the Ma'arik says, because I think that I'm seeing that the time is not good for us. I'll just add another question. I'll add another question with your permission. I'm a 25-year-old, and I bring a maidele, a nice maidele, and I want to marry her. And the parents are telling me, forget it. If you marry that lady that you love, we don't know you. Yeah, Benny, I thought about your question. A mother who throws a purse into the sea is also not acting as a parent. Not that clear, because it depends, by the way, the poskim are dealing with whose purse it was. And the poskim agreed that probably was the purse of the mother. So it upsets the son that she's throwing her purse. And it's not exactly not acting as a parent. It's not taking her needs before his needs, okay? Here with the architect, it's very clear. At any rate, I want to continue. So he says about the maidele, and they say, forget it. We don't know you. If you marry her, we're not coming to the wedding, and that's the end of our relationship. Does he have to follow them? Here we have answers of poskim, explicit answers. Now, first and foremost, I want to say, in both of these cases, the profession and the marriage, It's very important to say that because Kibud Av Vaem and Mora is such an important and precious mitzvah, the son, of course, should do all of his efforts to reconcile, to do it in derech eretz, in a respectful way. Needless to say. However, if it comes the bottom line that they're stubborn and they insist and will destroy his life to learn law, or it will be a terrible loss for him, who knows if he'll find a suitable wife after he already found his beshert, he is not obligated to listen to them. Here are the boundaries and the limitations of the mitzvah. Now let's see how the Maharik, it's regarding the shidduch question, it's an old tshuva of the Maharik, one of the late Rishonim, or first Achronim, and the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch is ruling it, halacha l'maaseh, that if the parents insist that you won't take that shidduch, you don't have an obligation to listen to them. Now let's see the reasons of the Maharik. The reasons of the Maharik for justifying that here are the boundaries of the mitzvah. Let's see. So first we start with the Rishonim, the Ramban. Vim tomar v'alo mikevan shamar lo aviv chamer achar b'hem dechazeu kvodo. And then he says, En ze yikar kibud ala masher mu v'kiddushin. That kibud is to feed him and everything that he benefits from. Kibud is anything that has a benefit to the parent. But if he told him to do something that he has no pleasure from it, the father, just because he's crazy, he has no benefit from it, this is not included in kibud, says the Ramban. Furthermore, the Ramban says, there is a Gemara that we learned that the father tells him to violate a Torah commandment. He tells him, a Kohen, go to the cemetery and take the lost object. And we need a pasuk to learn that he should not follow his parent, but follow God. Ramban says this is only, the Gemara talked only about a case when the father wanted to benefit from that lost object. Say it was fruit and he wanted to eat them. It was crazy. And he said, I feel like that you will take this lost object. Why? Because I said, this is not included in kibud, says Ramban. Here we'll see it. If he told him, Hitam lechinam, just I want you to become impure, he should not listen to him. Now the Ma'arik answers the question about the shidduch. And he says several reasons, but I want to focus on the main one here. I wanted to cover more reasons, but let's see here the main one. The kol sheken v'kol sheken. Here, number 4. Reason number 4. Kol sheken v'kol sheken. Heicha she'ein ben maniach milasot kibud aviv hamutal alav bishvil oto ma'aseh she'av metzaveh alav la'asot. Ki hacha. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. It's this. Here. Ugdola mizo katvu tosfot shans. Here, the 3. ועוד, עד כאן לא מפלגי עם משל אב, אלא בדבר דשייך האב בגבה. Something that has a direct relationship to the father. But something, the lo shayach begaveh, that has no it's the son's life, it's not his life, then it's not included in kibud. Only when it's directly connected to him. Here, it's the son's life, it's not his life. Now, of course, this is the criteria the Ma'arik sets up based on the Ramban. The line goes here. Kibud Av Vaem are only things that have direct relationship and effect to the father. But things that are the son's life, this is not the domain of the father. Good. But again, we can challenge that answer. I mean, not conceptually, but technically. Where do I draw the line? If this lady that he brought, the son, will indeed cause great embarrassment to the parents, can I say it's not affecting him? But where do I draw the line? Is it only when the lady is a crook, or when she is just, I don't know, not in the same, in the yichus that the parent wants? The end of the day, the criteria is analytically clear. The implementation of it is not that simple. Though the Ma'arik, I think, generally says, whatever you'll say, it's clear that the Ma'arik is saying that even if it's a big bizayon to the parent, at the end of the day, it's the life of the child, and this is only indirect. In order for it to be included in Kibud and Mora, it should be a direct benefit, direct effect to the life of the parent, something that is directly the life of the parent. Now, the Netziv, the Meishiv Davar, is arguing with the Maharik, or limits it. He says, no, I think that if it's a bizayon, then it's a direct effect on the parent, and therefore he should listen to the parent. But then the Tzitz Eliezer, and one conclude with that, a posek, and he says, I disagree with the Netziv, and I stick with the Maharik totally. Because where do you draw the line? A yichus, that's also bizayon. So he says, he's just not obligated to listen to the parent. The Chazon Ish, I have it here, but we don't have time to share it. Chazon Ish comes from a little different perspective. And he says, prior to the commandment of Kibud Av Vaem, the father has a commandment to work on himself, not to give such orders. Okay? And therefore, there is no Kibud. Okay, let's just summarize our shir. Okay, I know I'm over time, so I apologize, and we'll wrap it up and summarize it. What we've seen here, first step of the shir was to understand the essence of the mitzvah. And we've seen two main directions. One is Hakara Satov, but that direction itself is double-folded, 2 layers. Hakara Satov, simple Hakara Satov to your parents, but as we said and clarified, Kibud Av Vaem is opposed to general Hakara Satov, like an adopted child has towards his adopting parent, definitely. But Kibud Av Vaem specifically is Hakara Satov to your creators, and via that, Hakara Satov to the creator. That was one direction. The other direction, advanced by Hirsch and Meshech Chochma, Reb Meir Simcha Midvinsk, it's a critical component in establishing authority and therefore a proper transmission of Masorah, of Torah Shabbat. Okay, good. After that, we've seen ramification of this analysis. A, adopted child. B, we have seen Reb Moshe saying that a convert should respect her biological parents, even though halachically she's not their daughter. Physically, she is their daughter, and therefore she's included in the obligation of Hakara Satov, clearly, big time. We saw that tshuva from Moshe. C, we saw that there was a havamina in the Gemara, that one even violates commandments of the Torah and listens to the parents. And the havamina was explained by a desire to maintain authority, which is so important to Masorah. Of course, that was refuted at the end of the day. The minute that following them is against Masorah, then it doesn't make sense to do that. And also we have seen Gemaras that said that the extent of Kibud Av Vaem is very far. You should go very far to respect your parents. The limitation, you won't do something that violates a commandment of the Torah. And then we saw another limitation, when they command you things that are not directly related to them, but, and we'll say even further, they are focused. Their main thing is your life. At the end of the day, There is Kibud Av Vaem, but we acknowledge the autonomy of the son, of the child, of the daughter. We acknowledge that autonomy. And we won't require them to ruin their lives and their choices and their autonomy, be it for a shidduch, be it for a profession, because their parents are insisting to command them differently, even though l'chora it violates the commandment of Mora, as the Chazon Ish says, but these are the boundaries, yeah? Some Rishonim say that it only, Kibud and Mora are only things that are directly related to the parents. In different wordings, they should acknowledge the autonomy of the son and work on themselves. In different words, they're not acting as parents, as we said. Okay, so this is these are the boundaries of Kibud Av Vaem. In the chat, people here ask me, what about abusive parents, etc. Also, question was, if they're not abusive, but there's stam rishayim, you know, here about there, you could all look and there are discussions about it, but of course also here there's some boundaries, especially abusive parents. Of course, that if a child will ruin his life for that, then again, I think that here he is not obligated. Of course, every effort should be done to do things in a respectful way, in a to the extent that it's possible. Of course, we should minimize the diskibud of parents. Okay.
Thank you very much for a great viewer. That was very appropriate for my mother's yard site.
Oh, I'm happy. Okay, toda, with pleasure. So litraot chaverim, and I believe we'll meet you 2 weeks from now.
Good.